Thank you, Mario. Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to Fibromyalgia Association Canada's first in a series of fibromyalgia chats with Lynn and Trudy. It's so nice to have you here with us today. This presentation is being recorded for FAC's newly launched YouTube channel, which will be available in a few days. The launch will be announced when we send out the fall newsletter and also on FAC's social media. To receive FAC's newsletter, you have to be a member of FAC, and you can join us at www.fibrocanada.ca, and there's a drop down where you can join FAC. So before we start, I'm going to add a disclaimer. Although Lynn and I share over 50 years of experience living with fibromyalgia, the chat we're about to have is for informational and educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice or consultations with healthcare professionals. We are not doctors, and we're speaking from our own experience. And I'd like you to remember that everyone with fibromyalgia is different, and different treatments and self-care methods will work differently for everyone. So what works for me and Lynn, excuse me, may not work for you. Always consult with your doctor for personalized medical advice. Never disregard or delay seeking professional medical advice or treatment because of something you have heard on Fibro Chats. If you have any technical issues, please contact Mario at webmaster@fibrocanada.ca. Mario is the vice chair of FAC and will be keeping an eye on the chat for Lynn and I and helping with any technical issues and putting links in the chat. So let's get started. My name is Trudy Flynn, and I am the chair of the board of directors at Fibromyalgia Association Canada, or FAC as we like to call it. And I would like to start by saying that although people attending may be spread across Canada, I am located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Mi'kmaq first signed with the British Crown in 1726. These treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. In Nova Scotia, we are all treaty people. And as part of this acknowledgement, I also recognize the histories, contributions, and legacies of the African Nova Scotian people who have been here for over 400 years. I recognize that without action, an acknowledgement is empty. An acknowledgement marks the beginning of the work ahead of us and not the end in FAC's journey towards reconciliation. So for the most part, Lynn and I are going to chat, but we do have a bit of an agenda to guide our conversation. We're going to cover how we met, the work we're involved in. We're going to talk about how we manage our fibromyalgia pain, our experiences with pain, fatigue, brain fog, and stigma, and how we created our own individual management plans. And to complete the chat, Lynn is going to take us on a tour of the Power Over Pain portal. So I could say so much about Lynn and all the fantastic work she does for people with fibromyalgia and people with chronic pain, but I'm going to let Lynn introduce herself. So take it away, Lynn.
Thank you, Trudy. And before I start, I'd just like to echo what you said in your land acknowledgement. And I'm coming to you from Kitchener, Ontario, Southern Ontario. And I live on the lands of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabeg First Nation people. So it's such a pleasure to be here with you today. We are launching the first day of National Pain Awareness Week with our talk. And I wanted to give you a little bit of history about National Pain Awareness Week. It was declared in the Canadian Senate in 2004 as the first full week in November, and as a time to raise awareness about the pain issues that people experience, no matter what the source of their pain, and to take the time to provide education about pain and pain management. And over the years, I've been involved in many campaigns about National Pain Awareness Week with different organizations. I'd really like to highlight the fact that, you know, in the last few years, there has been great momentum in the pain space that has taken place uh, with the action plan, pain action plan for Canada being declared and created by Health Canada, and the formation of Pain Canada and all the work that is taking place there. So there are lots of opportunities for everyone to get involved, even telling your friend or a family member today that it's National Pain Awareness Week. And this is one thing I'd like to share with you about the pain that I live with. Make it one, and then you'll get it in. Make it like elevator speak, and then people will hear you. So I've been involved with fibromyalgia and pain issues since I had a back injury over 30 years ago. And the acute pain from the back injury translated into chronic or long-term pain, um, part of which became the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. And it was so long ago that I received a diagnosis, Trudy, of fibrositis.
Oh.
So that's how long ago it was. And you know, I really benefited from a local fibromyalgia support group here in Kitchener. I learned from individuals about what they were experiencing and how they were managing. And I went on to become involved with the Ontario Fibromyalgia Association for many years. Unfortunately, due to lack of funding, that association had to fold. And I'm just absolutely delighted that FAC is now up and going and servicing all of Canada. When fibromyalgia volunteering wasn't as available to me, I turned my attention to chronic organizations that dealt with long-term pain, chronic pain. And I've been involved in the pain space really ever since 2003. And currently, I'm the Director of Research and Education of the Canadian Injured Workers Alliance, and I'm also on the development team of the Power Over Pain portal. And I'm thrilled we've got some space today for me to give a little tour about that. This is a resource that is meant for all people who are touched by pain, the individuals like us living with chronic pain, the people who support them, and even healthcare providers. It's a great resource for them. Thanks, Trudy, and back to you.
So Lynn and I first met when we were both working with the James Lind Alliance from the UK and the Canadian Institute of Health Research's Institute of Musculoskeletal Health and Arthritis. So they set up a priority setting partnership identifying the top 10 unanswered questions about the management of adult fibromyalgia from the patient caregiver and clinicians who look after people with fibromyalgia's point of view. So that project started in 2014 and was completed in 2016. And that's so Lynn and I, it's been almost 10 years since we first met. So those top 10 questions were posted on both the James Lind Alliance website and the Institute of Musculoskeletal Health and Arthritis, or what's called IMHA, their website. And there they sat until FAC came around, and there was no funding. That's what disappointed me the most about that project. There was no funding set aside to research any of these questions. Disappointing, but not surprising, I guess, because there's not a lot of funding from the CIHR for fibromyalgia. So, Mario, if you wouldn't mind, you could put in the chat the link to the James Lind Alliance if anyone's interested in reading up on that. So Janice, who's here with us today, was also on this project with Lynn and I. Janice is a board member of FAC, and she and I are the co-chairs of the research committee. So when we were deciding what FAC research committee could do to make a difference in the fibromyalgia community, we thought about the James Lind project, which to this day has not been funded by IMHA. So we wondered, is there anyone actually doing any work on these types of questions? So we thought, how many of these top 10 priority questions had been researched outside of Canada? So we brought the project to the research committee, and the committee decided to look at each question and see how much recent research we could find. So interestingly, we have found that most of them have had quite a bit of research done on them, which is good. And what we're doing at FAC is posting each question and the research that the committee has found in the Just the Facts quarterly newsletter. If you don't receive the newsletter and you'd like to, go to fibrocanada.ca, and up down menu you'll select membership application form, because once you have joined, you will receive the newsletter and receive access to the newsletter. And I might mention here, if you'd also like to volunteer with FAC, go to the same place and choose the volunteer on the drop-down menu, because we could certainly use lots of volunteers. So I also wrote an article for IMHA because I did some work with CIHR, IMHA, the Institute of Musculoskeletal Health and Arthritis. And one of the things I did there was I wrote an article on my thoughts and experiences with the James Lind project, and it can be found on the CIHR IMHA section of the website. And I believe, Mario, you have that link as well. So I'm going to turn, sorry.
It's in the chat. It's in the chat.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over so Lynn and I can both talk about our journeys with fibromyalgia and some of the issues we've dealt with and management plans we've set up and how we've dealt with our pain and other issues with fibromyalgia, the brain fog, the extreme exhaustion. And I must say, Lynn, I was erring on the side of caution when I said over 50 years. So sadly, I can say over 60 years, because I too have had fibromyalgia for over 30 years. So, and interestingly, I not only have fibromyalgia, I was also a caregiver because my daughter was diagnosed at the age of 8. So I'm also well versed on the caregiver aspect, especially for children with fibromyalgia. So you can take over, Lynn. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I kind of thought it might be interesting for us to talk about, first of all, how fibromyalgia impacts us, and has that changed over the years, and what made it change? Why has it changed? And then we've been planning, folks. So we really want to introduce the idea of creating a pain management plan and getting involved in your care. So I'll go first. I mentioned earlier that I had that injury in an office setting, actually, where I had to hold the lid of something heavy unexpectedly, and it caused an injury to my back, neck, and shoulders. And just like many of you, I suppose, your fibromyalgia may have started with an injury, but it could have been any other source as well. It can just happen. And when the pain didn't go away from the injury site and then expanded into the rest of my body, I just didn't know what to do. I think that for me, the pain was the worst of the situation because I was dealing with that acute pain, and then everything translated into pain everywhere. And I think the biggest thing for me was, and still can be, that we look pretty good when we're dealing with going out in public or talking to our friends, whatever, a lot of the case, you want to put your best foot forward. And I was finding for people that there was a disconnect between how I looked and how I truly felt. And if I was out in a social situation and pushed through the pain and the fatigue, all of that, that it created a tremendous misunderstanding when I would come home and be in a great deal of pain. So for a very long time, I was looking for someone to fix me. Who wouldn't? Haven't we all? I was looking for someone to tell me what was wrong and to come up with a way that we could do whatever needed to happen, and I would be able to move on with my life as planned. At 26 years old, I could move on with my life as planned. Well, that didn't happen. And eventually, I was given the diagnosis of chronic pain. And at that point, Trudy, it seemed like a life sentence to me. But when a dear psychologist friend said to me, "But Lynn, you could call it persistent," I wasn't sure if I really liked the idea of just naming it and what would that do for me. But it did make a difference because it started me on the journey to get involved and learn to live with the pain and all of the other aspects. Now, that's a lifelong journey, I feel, because there can be many things that come along, like my schedule for National Pain Awareness this week is pretty heavy, and I need to be being mindful of pain. And I do have it today, as like all of you who are joining in, I'm sure. And at times it can be pretty devastating. So there's a start, Trudy.
Thank you, Lynn. So I developed fibromyalgia as a result of a mold exposure, and so did my daughter. I worked in her school, and it was a lot of mold problems there. And also the house we lived in, we discovered a mold issue in the house as well. Now, I also have a thing about wondering if fibromyalgia is also post-infectious, because when we developed fibromyalgia, my husband and my oldest daughter had mono. So we, who knows, right? Mold, the mono, whatever it was, it certainly triggered, and we both developed fibromyalgia around the same time. We were lucky because we had a doctor who also had fibromyalgia, so there was no delay in diagnosis. And he treated it as, so he made our mindset very positive because he's practicing as a doctor, right, with fibromyalgia. So even though I knew it was chronic, that there was no cure, it didn't seem like a life sentence because, and I thank him a lot because just his attitude made me feel like I can do this, right? And I also had a child to take care of, so that helped as well. And it's interesting because she doesn't remember life before fibromyalgia. So she has a whole different mindset about fibromyalgia than I do, because I certainly remember my life before fibromyalgia. So, but the biggest thing he told us to do was keep moving. You can't stop moving. And so we did that, and we continue to do that, and that has helped. But my main problem when I was diagnosed, and for years after, like 20 years, 25 years, was the brain fog and the memory issues. I was doing pretty good. I got myself pretty well under control using saunas and exercise and being very careful what I ate, because I also have a lot of food allergies, and so does my daughter. We had to be careful what we ate. So and then I had an injury at work which also involved mold, and it was a matter of someone repairing a ceiling tile while I was sitting at the desk charting. I am a nurse. I was a nurse. I guess I still am a nurse. And they dropped the tile next to me while I was charting, and all the mold went up in the air. And that was the last day I worked, because from that point on, I really suffered with memory issues. I have a period probably of 6 months that I don't even remember. So in my life. So that always was more of my problem. But I have to say, we had the COVID vaccines, and since the COVID vaccines, and we really reacted to those. And since then, my main problem now is pain and exhaustion. So the brain fog has taken a kind of a back seat. And I think it's because you can only focus on one thing at a time, right? So now the pain is more severe. So yeah, interesting. But I still do realize that I'm the type of person that has to exercise. I actually, my daughter and I both are marathon runners. So, but after that vaccine, we sort of lost that ability. We just weren't able to do that anymore. And we keep we keep trying and starting over, and then we have another crash, and then we try and start over. So it's an ongoing process. So there's a couple things I'd like to really stress is that I've learned in my journey. There is no specialist for fibromyalgia. Our family doctors are the ones who can take care of us best. And I'm very fortunate. I have a family doctor who's very knowledgeable about fibromyalgia. No longer the doctor who diagnosed me. He has retired. So I'm lucky that way. But what we do need to do is make sure our doctors are educated. Our GPs need to be educated. And the second thing that I've already mentioned is everybody's different. So what works for me doesn't work for other people. Like, I certainly don't expect people to be able to go out and run. And I have to define run. So when we first started running, we ran 15 seconds and walked a minute. 15 seconds, walked a minute. We did that for a long time. We only ever got up to running, I think, 2 minutes, and we did reduce the walking to 30 seconds. But and we'd be halfway through the run and we'd be going light pole to light pole. So it's not, when I say we run, we certainly aren't. We have friends who are real I don't say real runners because we're real runners. We have friends though who run nonstop, and we can't do that. So, so you always have to adjust things, right? So what running means to us isn't what running means to someone else, but we still have fun. We still enjoy it. So it's what works for us that's important. And we've tried keto diets, we've tried plant-based diets, we've tried everything. None of that stuff helps us. And yet I know people who swear by those diets. So it's individualized. And I think that's what everyone needs to know, is that you have to come up with your own plan. And I'm sure, Lynn, what works for me doesn't work for you. I know for a fact that what works for me doesn't work for my daughter. So that's how individualized it is. So
It truly is, isn't it?
yeah.
And how even the major symptoms, the pain, the sleep disturbance, which we were talking about before we came on camera, as being something that really impacts both of us, even though we have learned all kinds of coping strategies and go to bed strategies and things like that, there still is a disruption and the major fatigue. So it can be a struggle, and it's different for everyone. And what seemed like a life sentence 30 years ago, when someone told me that I had fibromyalgia and chronic pain and just go home and live with it, that wasn't helpful to me then. It wouldn't be helpful to anybody now. But the change in my thinking really helped me. The persistent pain label, if you will. I got to thinking about that, Trudy, and I thought, okay, so the pain is persistent in my life, which, boy, was it ever. And it just impacted absolutely everything about me, as did the sleep disturbance, because the pain felt worse when I wasn't sleeping. And then I felt so fatigued. But that pain was persistent in my life. But when I shifted my thinking to, yes, but this was a good yes, but I can be persistent in what I learn about it, how I live with it, how I move my life forward in spite of it. And that got my motor running, and that got me looking to learn about what this chronic pain stuff was all about. And of course, now we know that wasn't a good label either back then. The good news is that they're now calling the pain that lasts longer than the normal time of healing or beyond 3 months, they're calling it nocioplastic pain, which means there's a change in our body systems to be more sensitized to the pain. And it seems like alarm bells going off, but there isn't anything to have alarm bells going off about pain for. So that's kind of a maladaptive pain. And that's how I think of the pain that I experience with fibromyalgia. It is nocioplastic. But again, I think with that label, it is taking away some of the stigma that we as people with fibromyalgia have experienced, as individuals who may not be able to cope with life very well. And, so we're talking about all this pain and a very negative stereotyping of us, we incredible people, as people who can't cope, which of course isn't true. We're trying to find our way to manage all the adjunct symptoms with fibromyalgia, and get through it. So being persistent in my thinking started me to look for the different ways that I could deal with lack of like deconditioning, which happened to me while I was waiting for somebody to fix me. Um, Feeling all that soupy emotion like anger and frustration and sadness, and becoming depressed when I'd never been depressed before, feeling disempowered, all those soupy negative emotions, and then trying to deal with the sleep. So um, all of those things I was dealing with, and that shift helped me to get involved and to start looking at the ways I could break into that cycle that was going on for me: pain, deconditioning, negative emotions, lack of sleep, more pain, fatigue, all of it. And I started to realize that if this was going to happen, if I was going to have a life, I had to get involved and take some responsibility. So, like you, I started with exercise, and that was walking. And now I walk 5 kilometers a day, mostly at different, and if I'm not able to, then I will back off. I give myself that leeway. I started to look at what I was fueling with for my body and eating more healthy. I started to look at pacing, planning, prioritizing. I think you do that too, don't you, Trudy?
Yes, I do. Yes, there's just, you have to. You have to do that. And so you even have to do it when, my daughter and I running, when we were running, even at the best of times, we had to do something that other people don't have to do. We always had to allow a day or two in between our runs to rest. And so, a lot of people can run every day of the week. We cannot run every day of the week. We can run 3 times a week, and that's it. We've tried running 4, we've tried running 5, and then we end up not being able to run at all. So you do have to learn how to pace. And I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with a psychologist who actually wants to do some presentations for FAC. And she talked to me about the grieving process and how people with fibromyalgia are always looking up. They always want to go back up to where they were before they got sick. And that we don't look forward and move forward because we're too busy looking up or looking backwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Can be, yes.
Yeah, and I thought about that, and I thought, that's me. I want to go out. I haven't run in a year, but I want to go out and run that half marathon I used to be able to run. And she said to me, no, you have to start as though you've never run before. And you have to start back to your 15 seconds running and a minute walking, because you have to start again. And you have to be able to start again and again and again, no matter what it is, whether it's walking, whether it's biking, whether it's having saunas, no matter what you have that is your way of feeling better. It's not going to be a continuously up, making progress. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have to, and that to me was one of the hardest things to adapt to. I don't let go very easy. So
You know something though, when you're saying there that you've got to start back again, back again, and way back when, and I think I'm going to clarify something about what you said, because from knowing you, I know you don't go right back to the very beginning. What happens is, as we have successes and we learn through our experience then we bank that knowledge. And so if we've had a situation where we have to go back a little bit or start again, we're not starting from back where we were the very first time, right? Because we know how we can proceed forward gently, giving ourselves space to, no matter whether it's exercise or going out socially, we just have to give ourselves that space and the opportunity to move forward in a way that is going to support ourselves. We learn from some of the mistakes, and they're not mistakes. They're just things we learn along the way that helps us to move forward quicker. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I call those blips. They're just little
Oh,
blips.
that's a good one. And the way that, I love to swim, and I feel like $1,000,000 in the water. And one of the best things for me, and I think about my journey going forward with all these things, is when I'm moving in the water like this, and I'm parting the water almost in front of me. As I'm moving forward with all of in my life, with all of the coping strategies that I've developed, um, especially the planning, pacing, and prioritizing, especially that. The positive self-talk, for instance. I feel like no matter what barriers might come my way, I can push them out of the way by using the things that I've learned. And
That's interesting, Lynn, because
mhm,
I'm laughed when you said that about we don't go all the way back. So
yeah.
we started running back with that 15 and 30, and we got to the end of our driveway, and we both looked at each other, saying, "Seriously, we're really going to do this 15 and a minute?" That didn't last very long, so we then
No,
increased
no,
it and increased it. But
that's a really good
yeah,
example of that, where
yeah,
in some ways we can feel like, oh, I have to start all over again, but in truth, that's not the case.
no, and
And we
you did,
build confidence, don't we? We build
yes.
confidence. So when you and Natasha were standing there going, seriously, we're going to have to do this. You knew you didn't, because you had built some confidence in your abilities to think about where you should start, but then very quickly change change your mind and realize you didn't have to go that far back, right to where you call the beginning. You can move forward. So I think there's always um, an assessment. We do this all the time. I check in with myself a lot every day. Now I do it and I don't think about it. But back in the very beginning, learning to deal with all this stuff really felt like a full-time job and quite burdensome. And I quickly realized I had to start somewhere, I had to start with one thing. And I feel that's the way to do it, is to get the one thing that you know that you could start with and have some successes with, and then build on that and then bring other things in, not try to do it all at once. And that way you can kind of push this way and this way, and it gives you a path right forward, that because life comes along, then these things come along, so your path can end up being like that. But I think if we look at it that way, and one of the things I had to stop doing was being so hard on myself. Did you
Yes,
find that? I was
yes,
my
yes,
worst critic, even though people were telling me, it's this and that and the other thing, and nothing complimentary. They couldn't say anything worse than what I was saying that I wasn't living up to, whatever. And I'm glad I left that behind. And I've had good friends like Janice, who I've worked with for so many years, and we check in with each other from time to time, and on things we work on, and having good friends and family who can be your supporters are so important.
So I also, there is I was going to use the word stigma, but it's not that, I think. I think I went through a period of time where people didn't believe me because I didn't look sick. I couldn't be sick. And that's why I'm such a strong believer in our faces of fibromyalgia, that fact does, because I think people really need to get that message. You don't have to see it to believe it. We have a serious health condition and we can still look well, because I had difficulties with my family. My family didn't accept my diagnosis. I accepted my diagnosis, and so did Natasha, easier than my family did. And right to the part that my son told us both we needed to see psychiatrists. So, it was really difficult. I had a sister-in-law who used to laugh at us and say that, how could we be in the pain that we said we were in if we're sitting here and carrying on a conversation? So it brought me to, for the first time in my life, so I learned to spend as little time with them as possible, because I didn't need them adding to the burden of how am I going to do what I have to do with this illness. But the first time that I've ever had anyone say this to me, and really we should hear this more often, and it was that I went to my doctor in August, and she asked me how my fibromyalgia was, which she rarely asks me. And I said, it's not too bad. I, have some aches and pains, but at that time it wasn't too bad, the pain. And I mean, compared to, right? I mean, we get used to it. And so she said to me, she looked me straight in the eye and she said to me, Trudy, your aches and pain would probably be severe pain that I need medication for. So she said, never undersell your pain, that it's just aches and pains, right? Because she felt that if she had those aches and pains, she wouldn't be functioning. So it's true. I think we function with a high level of pain, and we still can do it, and we still look well. And that lends itself to that stigma that, you can't be sick because you look fine. And so I think that's something that we really need to deal with, and that we really need to convince people is not true. And I think we just lost Lynn. Hopefully she'll be back. You can keep an eye here she comes. We lost you, Lynn. So that's a stigma that we have to deal with. In fact, trying to deal with that stigma with the faces of fibromyalgia, because it doesn't feel very good when people don't believe you.
And something else that isn't terribly productive is when people who have fibromyalgia and pain compare what they're going through. We have a lot of commonalities, but to think about, well, my pain's worse than Trudy's pain, isn't going to help anybody. It's the knowledge that we all are dealing with these symptoms in different bodies, in different environmental backgrounds, with different perspectives on life, all of those things. And that we know, because we live it, that these different symptoms, I'm using that word right now, can impact us differently from day to day and even within a day. Depending on your level of activity, a person can feel more fatigued. Later in the day, you can feel more pain later in the day. And others who don't have fibromyalgia and pain, living with that 24/7, can also feel fatigued at the end of their work day or whatever they're doing. So there are so many things that we have in common. And I really learned earlier on to listen to what other people are saying about their experience and to encourage them to find, if they're really struggling, to find one thing that they can start to work on that can start them to move forward. You know, the only time, Trudy, that I truly suffered with fibromyalgia and pain was when I didn't know what to do about it. And it's easier now for folks because some of us are talking about it's paramount to get involved in your fibromyalgia and pain care with whatever health professional you can do that. It might be your family physician if you have one. It might be a physiotherapist, a chiropractor, a psychologist, a social worker, any of those individuals. It's important to recognize that you're the expert in what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, and to learn how to express that, to help people to understand. And that doesn't mean that we talk about our fibromyalgia and our pain all the time, because the most important thing is for us to move forward in our lives and to do things that we enjoy and things that are important to us. Trudy, it's her running. Me, it's my walking and my volunteer and work with Portal and the Canadian Injured Workers Alliance to help people. But there's no but. We need to get involved, and in my mind, to stop the suffering is to get that pain plan, which includes becoming involved and learning about whatever is causing you the problems. Getting education about sleep disturbance. We've got something really great on the portal in a workshop right now. Learning about diet and exercise and pacing and planning, all of those things and trying different things that can help to ease the impact of the fibromyalgia and the pain in our lives. So it's that plan. Another thing I heard you say, Trudy, you know, it was difficult to hear those negative, stereotypical, albeit unkind things from family. I'm sure that we who experience fibromyalgia and pain have heard that from someone. And in the beginning, that really negatively impacted me, and I wondered if they were right. And over time, everyone, I realized that I am an honorable, kind, caring person. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. I say that to myself every day. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. I am the person I always was. I am the person I have become because of these issues. I surround myself deliberately with people who are going to support me. They may not understand everything I'm going through, but they are there to support me. I call them my life team. And so the people in working up my pain plan, I decided who should be on that team. So it's healthcare providers I interact with. It's my best friend, Pat, who I walk 5K with every day. It's family members, colleagues, and friends. And if people are not there to be able to support me, then I just, with respect, move on. Any other
Exactly.
things? Any other things we should add to, like some people have to be in your life, and so you can talk about certain things with them, and then other things you don't, and it keeps the détente that you
Yes.
often need, but expecting individuals to give something that at this point in time they're not able to only harms us, I think.
Well, interestingly, now that fibromyalgia is a little better known, I find that those people have changed their whole attitude because, oh,
Yay.
that's what you were talking about, right? But
Yes.
I do agree with you. It is better to surround yourself with positive people. That's definitely a good thing. And I also, um, as difficult as it is, and not every day I can do this. Matter of fact, there's many days I can't do this. I try to keep busy. So that's why I'm involved with FAC. That's why I'm involved with other things involving patient engagement and research.
Mhm.
That's why I do these things, because I find the busier I am, the less I focus on what's wrong with me and the better I feel. And it was the same with our running, Lynn. I had so many people say, if you have fibromyalgia, how do you run? Like, I don't believe you have fibromyalgia if you're able to run. But, or they ask me why, how you do that. And my thought is, and this is kind of my thought about life, it hurts if I run, it hurts if I don't run. So I might as well be doing something I enjoy. It's not going to feel any different. So I
Yes.
try that with volunteer work. I try it with everything. And it really is amazing how different people are. So self-research is something that's really important in illnesses like fibromyalgia. You have to do the research and find out what works for you, because genetically, it should be that Natasha and I are the same, and one thing should treat both of us. But we are so different and so far apart. And there are so many things that she can do that I can't, and I can do that she can't. That to me, I've always accepted that people are different because I know how different we are. So, and I really stress that with people is what works for me may not work for you. Fortunately for us, running works for both of us. Walking, exercise works for both of us. So, but and Lynn, you always say, and you've said, look at one thing, and I have a really bad habit of trying. Okay, I'm going to try running today and biking tomorrow, and working at this and working at that. I tend to bring in too many things at one time. So if I really agree with what you said. Work on one thing at a time. And when you've got made some headway with that, then if there's something else you want to bring in, then bring that in, and you just move forward at your own pace.
Mhm.
And I was going to say slowly, but that's not the right word. It's
Yeah.
at your own pace. It's not slowly if that's what you can do. That's what
You're,
you can do, right?
that's very true. I find because of, I guess it's the brain fog, that if I have too many balls in the air,
Mhm.
whether it's volunteer work things and personal things, that it's it's almost as if my brain short circuits and I can't get anything done. So from sheer, I see Mario's nodding his head, from sheer self-preservation, I'm still, right? The journey continues now. I'm
Mhm.
still learning how to take this thing, and yes, it's important, but it's not the most important thing. So I'm just putting it here for right now. And I'm going to focus on talking with Trudy and everyone who's here and recording a good video. And then when this is done, I'll move to the next thing. Because otherwise, it's like all of this is going on, and I I feel quite scatterbrained. That's the only old term that I can use, and I think maybe that's because that's my fibro fog. So I think it's important to think some more about this pain plan. Um, Once I started on that road, I became less fearful. I felt as though I was starting to get, and I was seeing successes, and people were telling me I was having some successes. I was different than I was 2 months ago. I seemed happier, whatever. Um, I think that that gave me a little bit more momentum. And then I wanted to do what you do. I wanted to do everything. Like, oh, I'll just do 4 things. And I thought, okay, now bring in the pacing, hold it back. It's like the governor on those trucks you have to rent where it won't let you go over 80 kilometers an hour. And it pulls you back and you think, okay, now where's my priority? And you remember I mentioned that when I started into this, it all seemed like a full-time job and I was thinking all the time. Now I do it for the most part without thinking. It's just a natural thing. Something that grounds me beautifully. And this can be part of an easy pain plan. Remember to take in a breath. If you're feeling anxious for whatever reason, too many things going on, pain is bothering you, take your breathing up here. Take in a slow breath. Breathe in, breathe out. There are videos that you can get on box breathing and on other things. And honestly, when you started letting everybody in, I took a breath and I thought, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm focusing on now. So it was helpful for me with the pain plan to start writing things down, start looking at SMART goals. So goals that you can achieve in a short period of time, that are realistic, and that you are pretty sure that you can accomplish. So for instance, we've all got to do laundry. So if your goal was to do 5 loads of laundry in a day, well, that's not a smart goal for me. How about breaking it down to doing 1 load of laundry? And if you get 2 done, it's a bonus. But at least make sure that your goals are achievable. And
That
write down your plan. And guess what? Your plan is going to change. It's an evergreen thing because life changes. So if I had a starting point for you on your pain plan, I would look at your exercise, diet, learn about sleep hygiene, learn about fibromyalgia and chronic pain from reliable, safe sources like FAC and the Power Over Pain portal, and find the people right now who are there to support you, and then build on that.
So Lynn, before we turn it over to the Power Over Pain portal, I just want to end with something else I've discovered. I had a very, very, very good memory before I got fibromyalgia. I could see something on a page and the next day I could quote it back to you because I could see it on the page. So it was devastating to me to not be able to remember my own phone number or my street address.
Mm-hmm.
So that was stressful, and the added stress made it worse. So that's something. And like you, I do use box breathing as part of my toolkit. I also have tried things like Qigong, and saunas, and which are very relaxing. And so there's different things. I tried Tai Chi, but I couldn't do Tai Chi. But Tai Chi worked really well for my sister-in-law, who has a similar autoimmune disease. But I couldn't do Tai Chi because I couldn't remember the steps. I could do Qigong because it's pretty repetitive. I could do it. You do the same thing 10 times, so it kind of reinforces. But if I could offer some advice for anyone who has brain fog, I live with books by me. I have one for my grandson who I homeschool. I have one for FAC. I have one for my patient engagement, because when I think of something, I have to write it down, because within minutes, it could be, within seconds, it could be gone. So don't feel bad if you have to make lists. Lists save me, because I couldn't possibly recite things back and that was a big shock to me. It was depressing to not be able to remember things. So you have to learn coping skills. That's a big one too, is learn how to cope with what you have, right? When Tasha and I used to play this game, which was, if you had one wish, what would you wish for? And we never wished to not have our fibromyalgia. She especially, because she said it's made her who she is today, which is more compassionate and more understanding of people. And if I had one wish, it wouldn't be my fibromyalgia I would want gone. I might be tempted to say food allergies, because that's pretty restrictive, because we have a long list of food allergies. So I might say that, but it's interesting because, like you, Lynn, it's made me who I am today, and I'm okay with that. So,
and the amazing people who I have met.
Me too. Like all these people out here, the FAC board, it's more than just sitting on FAC now. The people with FAC are my friends. And so, it's open. I find it's opened my world to things that I would never have experienced before. Patient engagement and research, that's another huge area that having fibromyalgia has opened for me. So I think accepting what you have and moving forward is a big step in that direction. And that wasn't easy. I mean, I lost my job. So a job that I loved being a nurse. So and I liked all the people I worked with. And it's amazing, because once you stop working, those people just kind of disappear. So it was my whole social life. I lost that. So, but it took me a long time to accept where I am and where I'm going. So, and I have to say that when I felt bad when I was going to my doctor. I mean, I did not feel well. And so when he told me I had fibromyalgia, my thought was, oh, thank God, I thought I had cancer because my mom had cancer. And so I thought, so to me, it didn't seem like a death sentence. It was, oh, thank God I don't have cancer. So, you have to look at how, and my doctor did not say, you have this, you got to learn to live with it. He approached it with, you have this, and there's things you can do to cope with this. And, you still are going to have a good life. So he approached it with that attitude. And I think that's something we have to teach our doctors, that it's how you tell people that makes a huge difference in their outlook on fibromyalgia. So
And
having said that,
you're
I'm going to
right. Yeah.
I'm going to turn that over to you, Lynn, so you can bring us on your journey and our
Okay.
tour of the Power Over Pain portal.
Well, you're right about that, fibromyalgia is something we have to deal with. It's a chronic disease, and it needs to be managed.
Mhm.
Just like, and I don't mean just, I'm taking that word out. It needs to be managed like other chronic diseases. Arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes. There are certain things that have to be done that people can do to have the impact of the problem less and less. One of the, for years, Trudy, I've been involved in uh, education for us, our peers, about chronic pain and fibromyalgia, and educating healthcare providers. I do speaking engagements for healthcare providers and students. I work on the ECHO Chronic Pain and Stewardship Hub, which helps to educate Ontario healthcare providers about providing support to their patients. And so one of the most cherished involvements I have right now is working with the Power Over Pain portal development team. And it's my pleasure now to give you a quick tour. I can't show everything. If you really want to learn the ins and outs of the portal, there are orientation sessions, which I also help to lead. I'm doing one tomorrow night. And so please feel free to sign up for one of those. And so I'm going to move us into my slide deck first. Are you able, Trudy, to see my slide deck?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. So when we talk about the portal, it's really important for us to say that any information and content that is provided during a portal tour is not intended as and shall not be understood as medical advice or clinical care. We highly recommend that you seek advice from a licensed healthcare professional for any medical or health-related diagnosis or treatment options. And so as I give you the tour, and I think it should be about time right now for everybody to think about taking care of themselves. And when you're watching this video as well, think about, you've been sitting for a while, get up and do a couple of stretches, move around. We want you to get the most out of our time together with FAC and our time together looking at the portal. We know that we all come from different backgrounds, environmental backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. And we are doing our very best to ensure that as many backgrounds as possible are represented on the portal. However, this iteration right now is getting information there that can help people. And then the portal is an evergreen resource for you, and it will be changing as we go along. And we just ask you to think about um, uh, having curious attention and being open-minded when we're going through it. The Power Over Pain portal is meant to help you on your journey to live with chronic pain, just like with fibromyalgia. There is hope for people living with chronic pain, which is recognized as a disease. It is a resource that is one place on the web that brings many, many resources together. So we're not reinventing the wheel all the time. We are looking for evidence-based and always free resources. And the resources meet you where you're at. If you're at the very beginning of learning about chronic pain, there are resources for you. If you only want to watch a video rather than read something, there are resources for you. And we also have a connection with mental health and substance use resources. There are two portals, one for adults 18 and older, and a youth portal for people who are younger than 18. When we started to work on the portal, always people with lived experience with pain were involved in designing the portal. We're looking at it as servicing people as people and addressing as many of the factors that impact us as do. So we all know we're impacted physically, emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically by the impact of fibromyalgia and pain in our lives. We have to access pain care. That goes well sometimes, it doesn't go well sometimes. And I mentioned we have different support systems, we have different cultural backgrounds, we come from different environmental backgrounds. We have family, friends, social networks, and work networks that we have to engage with. And so all of these things were taken into consideration when we started to look for content. And you know, we're not alone. There are 8 million Canadians who live with chronic pain, from the tiniest newborn baby to our most senior of seniors. And we all should have the opportunity to be able to manage our pain. So these are the teams that are involved. These are the leads. This is the youth team portal lead with Dr. Jennifer Stinson, Dr. Melanie Knoll, Dr. Katie Burney, and Vino Mohabir. And these are the lived experience youth team who helped to inform how the youth portal was designed and the functionality of it. These are all the partners involved with the youth portal. This is the development team, Dr. Patricia Poulin, Dr. Yad Shergo, Dr. Rash, Dr. Bosma, and the two people with lived experience are me and Dr. Natalie Zernedin. These are my peers. These are the Lived Experience Advisory Committee who've really helped to bring the portal to fruition with their suggestions for functionality, right down to the color that's used on the portal and the content. And these are the partners. And so there's a very intricate network of partners and individuals working on many, many different committees and working groups to make sure that we have equity, diversity, and inclusion, that we're getting the word out there through knowledge mobilization about the portal, that all the research is handled through the Scientific Advisory Committee, and we have all of our collaborators, the lived experience people, and the 2 steering committees, and I'm on several of those committees. We wanted to create the portal so that it's your portal, your way, and always free. And something here, I wanted to show you this slide because I'm going to refer to it. This slide is related to doing self check-ins, where you can fill in. Now, here's brain fog. The word's not coming, so I'm going to describe it. You can do self check-ins to surveys that connect you to learning how your pain is impacted on a daily and weekly basis. And it helps you to understand where you are making progress in your pain. And so I'm going to now move us right into the portal. And Trudy, are you seeing the landing page for the portal?
I am.
Okay, so here on the right, you can see the youth portal, and we are going into the portal for adults. And right now, you should be seeing the landing page for the portal.
Yes.
What I would like to draw your attention to is the fact that there are many, many, many ways to get to the free and evidence-based resources that live on this portal and to learn about the portal. So we have a top menu with resources and services, events. You'll happen to notice that we have an English and French portal. You can see that we're aware that people may need support immediately, so you can click on this button if you need help immediately. And to access some of the courses that we have and to do those self-assessments, that was the word, you need to create a portal. Your data is kept safe. There are other ways to access the resources of the portal here. Right now, I would really like to take you to, I'm trying to move our faces around here, to a welcome video that really explains about the portal. And here we go.
Is there supposed to be sound, Lynn?
And even if it's invisible most of the time, this doesn't mean it hurts any less. Pain affects everything about us, in different ways, at different times. When pain interferes with what we want to do or need to do, like cook for a loved one, take your child to a soccer game, going out for a walk, focusing at work, or playing with your kids or beloved pet. Our mood and quality of sleep gets affected too. In fact, persistent pain can interfere with our lives so much that sometimes we think living like this is the new normal. Pain hurts, and it can stop many people from leading the life they want. Finding trustworthy information and programs on the internet is tough. There's a lot of information out there and in many different places. The good news. The Power Over Pain portal is here to help you by providing a one-stop shop to free, online, and evidence-informed resources to help you gain power over pain and start doing the things that matter to you. Co-designed by people who live with pain, clinicians, researchers, and community organizations, the Power Over Pain portal brings together many resources in one spot that may help you manage your pain. All the resources on the Power Over Pain portal have been reviewed by people who live with pain. Every person's pain experience is unique, so we have included a variety of resources for you to choose from. based on your interest and the amount of time you want to invest. If you are a part of the 1 in 5 Canadians who lives with pain, this portal is designed for you. Use the Power Over Pain portal as you wish. Bring a podcast on the road, connect with peers, or get into one of our courses. Whatever it is you're looking for, the Power Over Pain portal will point you towards the best resource available. You belong here. Your pain is real. You are not to blame, and you are not alone. Power over pain is possible.
Here we are. So if we move on this panel at the top, I really would like to highlight the fact that there are many events that you can take part in. This is the Power Over Pain portal schedule for this week alone. Now, this is National Pain Awareness Week, so there are a lot of orientation sessions. If you want more about the portal, you'll see me here at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, and then at 2 o'clock on Thursday. You can see there is a workshop on thinking about your pain. You'll notice that we have French and English workshops. Something you may wish to be in attendance for is at 6:30 on Thursday night, we are bringing together several members from the Lived Experience Advisory Committee. We are going to start a series for learning about pain from people who live with pain. If by chance you cannot attend a workshop when it is aired, the good news is here are all of the recorded videos of those different workshops. And these are all provided by healthcare providers. Our National Pain Awareness Week events are shown here if you wish to look up another event to be involved with. And look what was here, managing fibromyalgia and pain. I think that was pretty special. I've been thrilled that we were able to get this on the docket. And I'm taking us back because there's something else that I want to show you. There are peer support groups in association with the portal. Some of them are involved in certain provinces like BC and Ontario. People in Pain Network is a virtual support group network. There for Canada, there are substance use peer support groups. And you can see if you need assistance, you are able to click on 911. If we would love for you to become part of our community, and so you can sign up to receive updates about the portal. And also this gives you another opportunity to sign up for workshops. I'm back on the home page now, everybody, and I'm taking you down to here, where everything that we see on the portal lives here or here. So if you wanted to watch that welcome video again, you would click on here. If you want to browse the resources, you click on here. If you want to connect with a support group, it's here. If you really need to talk to somebody right now, a live counselor, this is where you go, and this is funded, and the connection is through Wellness Together Canada and Homewood Health. So you can speak with a counselor and they will help you take it from there. And quickly going into the, here is where you would create an account. Your personal information is very minimum. Your account is safe. It helps you to take advantage of doing those self-assessments that are going to help you to see and track the pain and how the pain is impacting your life. The algorithm that's associated with this, also when you fill in your self-assessment, it recommends different resources for you to try. You can try them whenever you would like. There are some resources on the portal that are free, but they are courses, 8-module courses. And in order for you to be able to go back into the course, if you take it and go back to where you saved where you were, you have to create an account. And the account creation on the portal is becoming more and more seamless. So this is where the resources are. So say you wanted to know information about sleep. That would be one thing that I would be looking at. You would do that, click on sleep and click on explore resources. And this information would come up for you. You can click to learn more information about that particular resource. And then to partake, you just click on the resource. The nice thing about the formatting for our resources is you can, oops, there we go. You can choose what type of resource you're looking for, whether it's an article, a podcast, a video, those self-directed courses. If you want to connect with support groups, it would take you to that page. You can also choose whether you want the resources to come from all across Canada or if you want them from a specific province or territory. And so we are really building resources all the time for our Power Over Pain portal. And it is a living, breathing entity. So this is just a very brief little tour, but I hope you will go to poweroverpain.ca, and I'm sure that you'll find something there that that can help you where you are and how you learn best. Thanks, Trudy. Thanks, FAC, for letting me give this little tour. And we have a couple of minutes left for whatever you'd like, Trudy.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for joining us. We are thinking of doing this again in December and chat about preparing for the holiday season, because that's a particularly challenging time of year for all of us, because no matter how well I feel, even if I'm in the best that I can be stage, Christmas is always, or the holidays are always a time that, let's just say January and February can be very difficult months after the holidays. So I always tend to eat what I shouldn't eat and do just stress. I find the stress of it. And so every year I say I'm going to start earlier, and I actually have this year. So let's see if I can keep that momentum going. So anyway, so that is the plan for December, and we haven't set a date yet. We'll have to look and see when Lynn and I are both free, and we'll let you know on social media once a date is picked. And be lovely to see you all here. And if you have any suggestions for us for future topics or for feedback from today's topic, please let us know.
Yes,
so thank you,
do.
everyone. And thank you, Lynn. It was great doing this with you.
Oh,
and
Trudy, it was fun. I really, well, talking about fibromyalgia, that part is important, but the fun part is being with you and being with everyone who's come in online. And so I'm looking forward to continuing our chats about fibromyalgia.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm looking forward to it too. And once we get our YouTube channel launched, this video will be on YouTube if you want to watch it again. So thank you, everyone. Have a good
Bye now.
day.
Take care.
Bye.